Josef Mencik, Scene 18, take 1938. Action.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the History and Mystery channel. I'm your host, Chronicler, and I want you to like and subscribe. Now that you've done that, I want to delve into a story that will tell us that if chivalry and honor died, it was after Josef Mencik's death. He was the last true knight that stood up against the German annexation of Sudetenland. For our story of today, I made 3 chapters. And those chapters are: who was Josef Mencik? Resistance against the German annexation? And the last knight. So let's start with chapter 1. Josef Mencik was descended from a small noble family dating back to the Holy Roman Empire. He grew up in the mountainous Böhmerwald area inside of the Czech Republic and was the oldest brother in a family of 4 children. When Joseph got older, he would become the proud owner of a 13th century Gothic fortress, which was located in a Czech town named Dobrs, if I pronounced that right. For the people that would like to visit the fortress, nowadays it's called Tvrz Dobrs, if I also pronounced that right, I'm sorry. If we take a look at this amazing historical building, we have to tell something about its history and its architecture. In the 1700s, the local nobility would add a Baroque-style wing onto the fortress. Unfortunately, not much later, the building would fall into disrepair. Because of this, the people would turn it into a shelter for the homeless that were living around the town. After serving as a homeless center, the fortress got transformed into a granary. After serving yet another purpose, it got transformed again, and now it turned into a school in the year 1838. To be honest, receiving lessons in such a historical building must have been inspirational. In 1911, the school and the fortress burned down and were said to be demolished. Luckily for the world, this historical building would not be lost to the ages, because a knight named Josef Mencik would step in to rebuild it. After he finalized the purchase of the fortress from the wealthy Schwarzenberg family in 1911, he would immediately start with its renovation. Besides renovating the building into his version of a castle from the High Middle Ages, he would also fill its interior with antiques and curiosities from the Middle Ages. Joseph became a sort of local celebrity when he started showing up at markets and fairs dressed up as a knight from the Middle Ages. It is said that he had purchased this amazing piece of armor in France. Thanks to his outfit, Mencik would call himself the last knight. Besides appearing like a knight, he would also commit his time to behave like a man with a chivalrous title. He did this by showing generosity and hospitality to his neighbors, guests, and other people that he met on the streets. Besides dressing up and acting like a knight, Joseph would also give tours of his fortress and tell about the history that he was trying to recreate and preserve. Fun fact, Joseph would also dress up his wife Emma and their 2 children to look like people from the Middle Ages. In this way, they would contribute to his knight still. Even though Joseph became a well-known local in his town, the act of chivalry for which he is best known would come 27 years later, after he became a local nobleman in the face of a new mechanized age of warfare. In 1938, after the Austrian painter had annexed Austria through the Anschluss, he had set his eyes on another disputed area called the Sudetenland, which was located in Czechoslovakia back then. Adolf Hitler wanted this piece of land and claimed that he needed it to unite and protect the German-speaking people under one flag and one empire. In September 1938, Adolf would use his soldiers to start small border conflicts with the Czechs. The Germans would claim that these conflicts started because the ethnic Germans that were living inside of Czechoslovakia got oppressed by the Czechoslovakian government. Besides creating these border conflicts, the Germans would create an army of Nazi sympathizers that were living inside of Czechoslovakia. This army would then be used to infiltrate the land and cause problems. The French and British knew what was happening, but most of them were not looking for another war. Their respected countries still knew very well how devastating and deadly the last war was. Because of this sentiment, they were looking for a peaceful solution to prevent another war. To get to a solution, the British, French, German and Italians would organize the Conference of Munich. During this conference, they would discuss how they could peacefully solve the Sudeten crisis. You would think that during such a conference, the country that was directly involved in the crisis would have been invited. But the Czechoslovakians weren't welcome at the conference. On the 30th of September 1938, Neville Chamberlain, Edouard Daladier, Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini and Galeazzo Ciano signed the Munich Agreement. This agreement stated that Czechoslovakia had to hand over the control of the Sudetenland area to Germany. They had nothing to say during the negotiations, but they were forced to accept the agreement. Germany mobilized its army and sent them over the border, where they would be faced by a man mounted on his horse, wearing a medieval armor and holding his sword. One man with balls of steel stood between the German army and his hometown. This action did create a lot of confusion for the Germans and even forced them to stop for a moment. They must have been thinking, what the hell is happening here? Besides standing in the way, Joseph even decided to make a charge towards the German army. Unfortunately, Joseph's acts of bravery wouldn't stop the German army, and they would just kick him to the side, tap their heads and continue their advances. Even though they could have easily killed Joseph with a burst from their machine rifles, they didn't do it, because they thought he was just a local that went nuts. Nobody got hurt during the confrontation, and the soldiers continued to occupy the lands. Josef Mencik, the last knight that stood up against German aggression and became a legend. Joseph admired medieval knights and wanted to continue their legacy of bravery and honor while he was standing up against the enemy dressed as a medieval knight. Joseph probably never believed that he could have actually prevented the German army from invading and occupying the Sudetenland. But he was successful at preventing the Germans from capturing one thing, and that was his own castle. And even though the Germans brushed off Joseph's attack, they technically never defeated him, making him the undefeated knight that faced off against the German war machine. Josef Mencik would see the end of the war, but die shortly after it. At the age of 78, Joseph died on the 19th of November 1945. May he rest in peace. His legacy continues to live on, and multiple historians and scholars alike have studied his story. I want to thank you all for listening. See you in the next one, and remember, history is written in mystery.